Brian Shaffer, 27, medical student. Walked into a bar on a Friday night. Never walked out. Investigators reviewed 100 cameras. Every person who entered matched to a person who left. Every single one. The recordings were clean, and they found it. A construction zone attached to the rear of the bar. Walls that opened where the camera grid assumed solid floor. The system was designed for a building that no longer existed as mapped. The system worked perfectly. That's the problem. A man walked into a bar in the middle of a busy city on a Friday night with cameras running and people everywhere, and simply ceased to appear on any recording ever again. In the days after he vanished, Brian's father, Randy, brought scent dogs into the search. The dogs moved through the ugly tuna saloona. They picked up a trail. They followed it, and it led them toward a service door connected to the construction area at the rear of the building. And then, somewhere along that path, near what some accounts describe as the direction of an abandoned lot and a parking area beyond it, the scent went cold. A trail that cuts off abruptly near a parking area is often consistent with one thing: someone getting into a vehicle. Whose vehicle that was, nobody has ever confirmed. No body, no note, no usable trail. His wallet still in his apartment. His car still in the lot. His phone gone with him, but not silent. Not yet. 3 weeks before he disappeared, Brian's mother was gone. Brian was in medical school, preparing for a life dedicated to healing, while he could not do a single thing to save the one person who mattered most. He was still carrying that. You could see it if you knew where to look. On the evening of March 31st, he had dinner with his father, Randy. Just the two of them. Nobody knew it at the time. But that was the last time Randy would ever see his son. Here is the detail that matters most. Brian had a flight booked for the next morning. Miami. His girlfriend Alexis was already packed. He had plans. Real ones. After dinner, he linked up with two friends, Clint Florence and Meredith Reed, bar hopping on North High Street. Spring break. He looked fine. But fine is not the same as okay. But before any of them set foot in the ugly tuna, something happened. A brief argument between Brian and Clint, sharp enough to register but not loud enough to stop the room. Two witnesses, with no connection to each other, described the same moment independently. What the argument was about, nobody has ever said on record. At approximately 1:15 in the morning, the three of them arrived at the ugly tuna saloona. The CCTV camera caught Brian stepping onto the escalator, heading up to the second-floor venue. He was smiling. That smile is the last image of Brian Shaffer. That makes any sense. Everything that came after it is 40 minutes of silence, and a building full of people who, somehow, saw nothing. You're standing in that bar at 1:50 in the morning. Music too loud to talk. Last call in 10 minutes. 300 people all moving toward the bar at the same time. Brian is somewhere in that crowd. And then, at approximately 1:55 a.m., he is not where Clint and Meredith are. He ends up near the entrance. Two women he doesn't appear to know. A brief casual conversation. Both women later told police he was completely normal. Not distressed. Not intoxicated beyond reason. He appeared to have zero reason to run. He told them he was going back to find his friends. He turned around, he walked back toward the bar, and then, nothing. The bar closed at 2 a.m. The crowd moved toward the exit. Bouncers swept the floor. Clint and Meredith waited at the entrance for Brian to come through. He did not come through. Stop right there. He is 30 feet away from them in a room full of people, in a building with cameras. He should be visible. He should be findable. He should, at the very minimum, appear on a single frame of footage, walking toward the exit. He doesn't. Something is wrong here. Not in the way cold cases are often wrong, messy, and incomplete. Wrong in a way that defies the basic mechanics of how a building works. When the closing lights came up, Meredith wanted to go back inside and look for Brian. She said so. Clint told her not to. Brian had probably just gone home, so they left, without a second look. The last decision made about Brian Shaffer that night was made by someone else entirely. But Brian did not go home. The next morning, Alexis arrived to leave for Miami. Brian's door was locked. His suitcase was untouched. No call, no text, no message, just silence where a person had been. No one saw him leave, but someone had to have known something, because people do not evaporate from the middle of crowded buildings. Physics does not allow for it. His wallet on the table inside his apartment. His ID, his cash, the literal keys to a life in 2006 left behind, as if he'd only stepped out for a breath of air. But here's what makes zero sense. Not a single ATM transaction after that night. Not one credit card swipe, not a hotel check-in, not a bus ticket. 100 cameras, every lens within a 3-block radius was pulled and reviewed. 0 frames of Brian Shaffer after 1:55 a.m. The idea of a voluntary exit was a primary lead. The theory suggests that under immense stress, a person might choose to simply step out of their own life, because that theory existed early in this case, and it has to be addressed directly. A man who decides to vanish leaves evidence of the decision. He accesses money. He takes identification. He moves in some direction that a camera, an ATM, a bank account, a phone, something catches. Voluntary disappearances leave a footprint, even when the person is trying hard not to leave one. Brian left nothing. One veteran detective, speaking publicly years after his retirement, said it was the strangest case in 30 years on the job. Not the most difficult, not the most complex, the kind that does not fit any pattern you have ever trained for. Brian's father, Randy, never stopped looking. He went to investigators, he went to the media. He pushed this case forward when cases like this tend to quietly disappear into filing cabinets. Randy Shaffer died in 2008. A falling tree branch. An accident with no connection to Brian. He never found out what happened to his son. Not in 2 years. Not ever. 2 people gone. 1 building. No answers. Months after Brian vanished, roughly 5 to 6 months later, investigators later tracked a ping from his cell phone. A signal picked up by a cell tower in Hilliard, Ohio. A quiet suburb with no apparent connection to Brian's life. No reason his phone should have been in that area. No reason it should have been on at all. Think about what that means. A phone does not charge itself. A phone does not move itself. A phone does not send a signal from a suburb 5 miles from where its owner disappeared without someone, somewhere, holding it. Someone may have had Brian Shaffer's phone. Someone was watching that screen light up in the dark while a father was out there searching for his son. And if that is true, it means at least one other person could have been involved in whatever happened that night. Investigators tracked the signal. They searched the area the tower indicated. Nothing at the other end. No phone. No Brian. Nothing. And then the signal stopped. That phone was alive. Whoever was on the other end of that signal has never been identified. They have never come forward. They have never been publicly named or charged or even confirmed to exist. If that signal was just a glitch, just a tower error, just dead data misfiring the way old phones sometimes do, why did it go permanently dark right as investigators started looking harder in that direction? Someone knows the answer to that question. They have been quiet for 20 years. Brian Shaffer has been missing since April 1st, 2006. The Columbus Division of Police lists this as an active investigation. New tips are still reviewed. The file has never been closed. Brian did not wander out of that building on his own. Somebody knows what happened in that bar after 1:55 a.m., and that person has been living with it every single day for 20 years. What do you think happened after Brian turned and walked back inside? Drop it in the comments. Don't miss out on the next content. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications.